Greetings. Frederick Riddle here with another Christian News and Views. This is episode 2622, and today is Wednesday, and the title is No King, or a subtitle you could say, We Have No King. Now, this is not a Bible talk, but today's talk is a mixture of Bible and politics, so can't avoid it. There is a political movement out there, and you're all familiar with it, that is essentially anti-Trump, that says we have no king. This is an interesting claim that requires some thought on our part. So I'm not quoting anybody else's thoughts or anything. It's just simply mine. So I'm going straight to my opinion. One question that arises that this statement seems to be in response to the perceived notion that Trump wants to be king. This raises a question for me. Why would President Trump want to be king? Does the King of England have anything like the power that the President of the United States enjoys? No, not even close. Does the king of any nation have power equivalent to the United States president? No, not even close. You might look at President of Russia, that's Putin. He has power. Does he have absolute power? No, he would like to, but he doesn't. He still has to walk a very thin line these days. It's even thinner, I think, and more fragile. But he is responsible to other people. They can remove him if they so get to that point. And so he's got to be fighting quite a battle that we don't see politically. But he has power. He has great power, but I think that he doesn't have the power equivalent to the president of the United States. So the notion that President Trump wants to be king strikes me as rather foolish. As president, he not only has great domestic power, he also has great international power. We've seen it. Now, you may not like the way he uses the power. You may not like the way he accomplishes things. The fact of the matter is he has the power to do it. So as president, he has great domestic. Yes, he's responsible to the Congress and he's responsible to the Supreme Court. These are three equal parts of government. You have the administrative branch, we have the executive branch, and the judicial branch. So it's three equal branches. They're all responsible to one another. So they call it checks and balances. So he does not have unlimited power, but he has great domestic power. But when overseas, he can bring power there too. He's demonstrated in Europe with NATO and other things. He's demonstrated it elsewhere in the world. When he gets involved in something, there's people react. Usually, if they're wise, they react well, and they try to submit to his leadership. Not always willingly, but they do. And so this is great power that he has. I'm not sure that even King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, who would have been called an absolute ruler, I'm not sure he had that kind of power. He still had generals underneath him that could overthrow him. They'd overthrow other leaders, but he was not overthrown. Even when he was sick there for quite a while, I think may have been for like seven years or something like that. Might have been less, but it was for a time in which Daniel somehow was able to take control of the government and protect it, so that when King Nebuchadnezzar came back, he came back in full power. But as powerful as he was still limited. And I think this simply because of what the United States is, it is a superpower. Therefore, that makes any president super powerful. President Trump is one of the few who have actually grasped it, understood it, and used it. And when presidents do that, whether it's a man or someday a woman, and if they understand the power levers available to them, they will then use them according to their own personalities, likes, and so forth. But he has great power. So why would he want to be king? I think that that's a foolish notion. So on that basis alone, this no king mantra is on weak ground. President Trump has extreme power, constitutional power that he is willing to use, but he also has constitutional limitations. Even so, he is the most powerful man on earth. And we're not just talking about President Trump. Any president before him was super powerful, and in recent decades has been the most powerful man on earth. And if a woman ever becomes a president, she'll be the most powerful woman on earth. So the question comes up, should we as Christians join this movement? Well, I've already shown that its basis is flawed. It's really nothing more than Trump derangement syndrome, or TDS. However, there is another reason far more important that we need to consider. We already have a king. We are a Christian nation following Christian principles, or we should be. So we serve the King of Kings, Jesus Christ. Now, you may not like President Donald Trump, but he not only serves as president by God's choice, and by the way, so did President Biden, but he serves as God's servant, willing and by his choice. Biden, not so much. So you are, and so am I. But he worships Jesus, something that there's no evidence that Biden did or does. Is he perfect? Is he a perfect Christian? No. But I'm sorry to inform you of this, but there is no perfect Christian. We are still sinners because we still have a sin nature. We are a forgiven people, and President Trump is a forgiven believer. You have to go all the way back to President Reagan, who got government out of the way of Christians who were trying to live and serve Christ, to find anybody like that. Therefore, I say the answer, should Christians join this movement? The answer is no. This is a political movement with no basis in fact and is in direct conflict with our Christian heritage. Christ is our king. At best, these are delusional people who have been deceived. At worst, they're anti-Christian and will reap the consequences. We humans don't have the capacity to analyze anyone's motives. God alone has that ability. But the actions we can. President Trump has used his position to advance the cause of Christ as he understands it. And he's put the office of president behind it. He's gotten criticized for that, by the way. But that's what the president should be doing. The president is not up there to be a neutral figure. He's to be a leader. And if that means leading people to a closer walk with Christ, then so be it. Every president has had his own goals, his own agenda. The very first president, President Washington, he went out and put down what was called the Whiskey Rebellion. He used presidential power. He ordered the troops in, and they put the uprising down. That was part of his agenda, to establish a government that not only is of the people, but a central government that could rule. And so he established the government. He established the initial parts of the president's power. And other presidents after him have taken that further. So it is not how expert or knowledgeable that Trump is in Bible doctrine, but what he is doing with what he knows. I believe if you grade him on that issue, he comes out pretty good. The No King movement is not of God. So what is my advice? Stay away from it. We like to criticize. We live in a world where where we criticize one another. And that's okay to an extent. But when you get carried away with it and start mudslinging and everything else associated with it, that's wrong. And as Christians, we shouldn't do it. I try to stay away from it. I don't think I've done any of that, but it's hard not to throw a little bit of mud because the liberal camp is throwing buckets of mud, if you will. But the thing is, uh, I can't look into a liberal person's as well any more than I can a conservative person's heart. I don't know how sincere they are. I don't know what their thought process are. You say, "Oh, I know." No, you don't. You know what their actions say. And the actions may say something far different than their real inner emotions and thoughts and so forth. We are fragile human beings, and we are prone to make mistakes. That's why God has to punish us once in a while. But God, we are considered children. By the way, we are also considered sheep. And if you know anything about sheep, they're kind of dumb, and they have to be disciplined frequently. A shepherd, that's what a shepherd does. And so that's something that kind of humbling to begin with, but we got to keep in mind, we are not in a position to criticize other people. Now, we can and should judge their works, not the motivation for the works, but the works itself. And on that, I think we're very allowed to do that. And I believe that when you do that, President Trump comes out to be a pretty good president. And I think history is going to treat him very, very well. Is he the greatest president we ever have? I have questions about that. With President Washington, who established the presidency, President Lincoln, who saved the presidency, if you will, and others who have expanded its authority and used it wisely. He is certainly one of the great presidents, in my opinion. And I think he's going to be treated that way by history. Well, that's it for today. I hope this has kind of been maybe informative, maybe enlightening, and inspirational. I hope it gives you something to chew on. And maybe you'll leave a comment. I love comments, and I look for them. So please leave one. You can leave it right here. Make a comment as to what you think. Keep it nice, respectful, but make a comment. Another thing that I want to talk about is this is sponsored by T&R Independent Books, a Christian indie publisher. It is a business that exists because God led me to establish it. Actually, he led me and my wife to establish it in its initial form. After her death, he led me in broadening it and building upon the groundwork we had laid. And now where it is today, a Christian indie publisher that's looking for writers. If you're a Christian and you want to write, we're looking for you. If you don't know how to write, we can teach you through basic authors training. If you know how to write, perhaps you've already written, but you need a publisher, we are a Christian publisher looking for Christian authors. So why don't you go to trbookservices.com/shop. That'll take you right to the bookstore. Go to our writing department, and we have basic authors training, or BAT, B-A-T. We also have ministry and publishing, also known as MP. Go to either one of those, click on them, and you can learn more. And there's also an application form. Fill it out, have questions, include them, and then send it on to me. And I will look at them. And if I approve of that application, I will send you links so you can buy whatever service that is you're wanting to buy. I will also send you a coupon. Right now, that coupon is worth 26% off. That's huge, folks. 26% off. That is huge. Well, you have a great day, and I hope to see you in the next episode. See you then.